nearly got stuck there. It just gets better and better and better. G'day folks, Pat Callinan here. Well, since I was 4 years old, I dreamt of owning one particular vehicle. It started off as a little matchbox car with articulating suspension, and that vehicle was called the Ford F-150. For many years, you couldn't even buy that vehicle in Australia, but recently you can. And now that vehicle, it's behind me. Now, how many people can say that they have the opportunity to build their dream vehicle? Dream up anything yourself. Think of it right now. And if you had the chance to do it, would you? Well, I've got that chance. And over the next hour or so, I'm going to show you what I've done with my F-150 to personalize it, to make it unique, to make it mine. Well, some of it, it's a little bit experimental. Will it work? Who knows? But by goodness, I'm going to have fun trying. So jump on board as we go for a bit of a bush christening, the very first drive in what I like to call Project First Responder. But that won't be the only rig coming on this adventure. Along for the ride this episode is Graham Jones from Off-Road Systems driving my Ford Ranger, and my trusty sidekick Josh Leonard in the Everest. And where exactly are we headed? Well, a big rig like this needs big skies and wide open spaces. So I thought I'd venture into the incredible ancient landscape that is the Flinders Ranges.
Mate, you had the whole of Australia to pick from. What led us to the Flinders?
I have hopefully built a pretty spectacular car, and or as the Americans call it, a truck. And I think a spectacular vehicle needs a spectacular track. And the track that I am taking you to eventually is, I think, if not in the top 5 in Australia, it could even be in the top 1 or 2. This track is quite incredible, but I'll leave you in suspense for that. But while we're going to a pretty awesome track, Josh and Graham, I think the scenery around here is pretty crazy in itself, isn't it?
Breathtaking are the words that come to mind, I reckon.
Yeah, I have to say I'm absolutely staggered. I've not been here before, but I'm just blown away. This is a geological wonderland, this place.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Graham. It is a bit of a geological nirvana. The things that have happened over the last 1600 million years or so here are quite incredible. They've had glaciers actually forming some of these valleys, like probably around about 600 million years ago. They've had volcanoes 1600 million years ago, and they've had global warming that has again shaped this area. And it is just incredible what it has created. You know, you've got uranium, you've got so many different minerals that have been formed over the millennia.
Yeah, well, it's just absolutely blown me away. I've read about the Flinders many times over the years, and it's always been on my bucket list to come here, but I can't say I really knew why, or certainly didn't expect what I've already witnessed.
And as we get up here, we have a little gate in front of us. So The surprise here, guys, is we are allowed to drive the Ridgetop Trail. Doug Sprigg, who runs this place, I've known him for many years, been and crossed the desert with him once or twice, and yeah, he has allowed us access to this track. Now, anyone can actually come here and can jump in the back of their vehicles and go up this track and experience the incredible views that we'll see pretty soon. But it's a bit of a privilege that we get to do it in our own vehicles. So yeah, very, very lucky.
Mate, lucky indeed, and a privilege to be here with you two fellas.
Well, I'm going to take that as a big plus and appreciate that, absolutely.
Well, would you believe this is the first time that I've engaged low range in the F-150, my brand new 4x4. I haven't had a chance to previously because it basically came straight off the factory floor and went straight into the workshops to have everything fitted, which has been a monumental task over the last 4 months or so. So this is an exciting moment for me, and I have not driven this track for about 6 or 7 years, so it is an amazing track and I can't wait to share it with you. This is going to be a good day. So Josh, you've been watching my back end crawl its way up these rocky Arkaroola mountains for the last few kilometres, mate. Tell me, does my butt look good in this?
It is impossible for it to look any better. It also looks extremely comfortable as well.
It really is, mate. It's funny, this longer wheelbase is something special on a track like this. I mean, it is just such a comfortable, supple ride. I am absolutely loving it, and my goodness, would you look at that view over to the left? Amazing.
How do you make a view like this any better? Put a red 150 on it, right?
I think it's really interesting the fact that, you know, Graham, who has, you know, mate, you've travelled right around Australia. You've been a four-wheel driver for, I don't know how many years, I dare to under. But the fact that you haven't been to the Flinders before and soaked up Arkaroola, what do you put that down to, mate? Bad advertising on the part of South Australian tourism?
No, not really, Pat, and it has been quite a few years, 20 something, but no, I've just managed to go past it quite a few times. Now, when I've sort of skirted past it when we went to Simpson, I've skirted past it when we came back from WA, and it's always been on my bucket list to make it a trip, and it just didn't happen yet. Well, it has now, but it hadn't previously.
Yeah, it's always a funny one. How do we choose our next journey, you know, because let's face it, we're in the best country on the planet as far as four-wheel drive exploring and adventuring is concerned, so we've almost got too much choice. But when you look over the hills here, you sort of think, wow, this is so right up there in terms of, you know, if you had to rank different journeys, this place is so special. The reds and almost that blue hues over the mountains as well. It's just a beautiful colour palette.
You know, it is absolutely spectacular. I know we use the word a lot, but it is.
I don't have any words, honestly, genuinely.
I love the fact too that this is private property and you're allowed to explore it, and they are absolutely, you know, right into protecting the environment. The Sprigg family, who are sort of custodians of this land here, but you know, the fact that they allow people to camp here, explore here, have a look at their observatory, have a look at their yellow-tailed rock wallabies. It is just such a good spot. They've even recently introduced some Western quolls into the area, I've heard. So, man, there is a lot to explore.
This is the exact kind of place you come to once and then you just keep on coming back and back and back.
Any car guy knows that a vehicle is so much more than a machine. It takes on human qualities at times. And if that's the case with this vehicle, in the first few kilometres of a four-wheel drive track, I can tell you, I've fallen deep and I've fallen hard for this girl. I'm in love.
Oh my gosh, it truly is vehicles like these on tracks like this that make you think, what is my life and how can it get any better?
This track is a considerable four-wheel drive track in its own right. It's really got some challenges in it.
It does, mate. You got to pick your line, and it's a hard thing to pick when you're staring out at this gorgeous scenery. I mean, you don't know where to look. Do you look in front of you at the rock you're about to hit, or do you look in the distance at the rocks that are diving up from the valley? It's amazing.
I'm seeing a lot of sky, I know that.
Spare a thought for me. I've got to not crash into Pat's pride and joy and not crash his other pride and joy while taking this scenery. It's ridiculous.
And there's these little surprises along the way, like you see these grass trees popping out from the side of the hill now that are just absolutely beautiful. They've been in flower not long ago, and they just put that little bit of icing on the cake of an already incredible view.
I could be about to embarrass myself, Patsky. Are they called Xanthorrhea?
Very good. You have learned well, my son. That's exactly what they are, Xanthorrhea. And this is the reason I came here in my dream 4x4 to drive this spectacular slice of South Australia. This, folks, is Silla's Lookout. Well, boys, what do you think of that view as you're around the bend?
This is clearly the Holy Land and the perfect spot to christen this truck.
It's harsh, it's sumptuous, it's gorgeous, and what a drive. Like, it really has to be one of the greatest drives in the world.
That is a huge call, especially from you, but I'm right there with you, mate. I absolutely agree. It is up there.
It's going to be some tight parking up here, gents. I think it's normally meant for one car, but we'll try and squeeze up and see how we go. We might want to apply the park brake up here.
Car off, handbrake on. I'll see you guys soon.
Well, you know it's a good track when it sort of ends with a giant full stop. It's like you just end here and there, presented in front of you.
Full stop or an exclamation mark?
That's a good point. It is an exclamation mark, mate. More so, for sure.
It certainly is. It's just magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. It's probably one of the best lookouts I've ever been to, but it's just massive. The view is just extraordinary.
Incredible contrast, though, of just these rugged, you know, harsh looking mountains and then the plains that just spread out literally to the horizon.
Mate, can I just say thank you so much for bringing us here.
My pleasure, mate. Well, unfortunately we can't camp up here, fellas, but I've got a good camp for us that's only a few k's back that way. So
Sweet.
we can celebrate properly with a nice cold one back there.
All right, you got me.
Let's do it.
And so we headed back down the hill to nearby Armchair Camp and set up for the night. But after a long day at the wheel, it was thirsty work indeed. But with no pub in sight, I thought I'd bring my own. It's time for Project Thirst Responder to perform its primary function.
What a way to finish a day, boys. Well, here's to a fantastic day's driving, fellas, and a bit of a christening of the new rig.
You couldn't finish it in a better place. Just an awesome sight.
And with a draft beer.
We've got to be the first people to have actually had a draft beer in this spot, I reckon.
Almost certainly, mate.
Oh my gosh.
What a view.
What a magical place to wake up to, cradled in nature's glory. Despite starting the day with a beautiful vista, there are tons of others to see in the Flinders. So I'm taking the guys to another cool spot to soak in the view.
There are just so many things to see. The view from straight out the front, the left, the right, it's incredible. But sometimes it pays to get out and check the place out on foot.
This is Coulthard Lookout, named after local Andiamartha chief Andy Coulthard, who viewed this point in 1972, just weeks before his death. He had tears in his eyes as he came here and recalled the significance of this land to him and his people. Now, driving the F-150 is one thing, but camping out of it is something else.
Let me show you the business end of my F-150, and it really is this tub rack here. It comes from a company called Upfitter, and the brand of this one is actually called Go Rhino, and it's the XRS Overland model. Now, Josh and I actually did a bit of a DIY on this. We actually built this in the driveway over about half a day. And the beauty of that structure is it just allows you to have a base for anything and everything to this vehicle. So we've got our first aid kit, our shovel, we've got our lights, which actually come with a dimmer switch in this setup. You've even got a sound bar up the front of this vehicle as well, so we can listen to the tunes. And around the other side, we can also mount our exit tracks. But the important thing about this vehicle is that it is our mobile campsite. It needs to shelter us, whether it's raining, whether we are sleeping, whatever. So as a result, our framework here with this tub rack allows us to put our 270-degree awning and our rooftop tent from Bushwhacker. So we can simply jump up here, and let me show you that. So simple to erect this rooftop tent. It really does take just a couple of minutes. So we drop our little stays in here. We brush off the flies. It's one side and the other. Now this model here is called the Penthouse, and I particularly like it because there's just so much room in there. Well, you can store all your bedding, plus it's got a whole host of extra storage as well. You've got lights built in, you've even got a fan up the top. And this model also comes with a couple of pillows. But for me, it's the mozzie-free ventilation that makes this an absolute winner. Now around the side, we have some amazing shade. Now when you're looking at getting yourself an awning, you really want to make sure that not only does it set up easy, but it also packs down easy. And the nice thing about these Bushwhackers is the bag is actually a good size. It actually works and it's very easy to pack away at the end. Josh, give us a hand, mate. Thank you. Grab one of those. So they've got these handy little ratcheting straps here, and you simply hook one end into the awning and the other end can hook to just about anywhere on your car that is a solid place. So it could be your bull bar like so, or it could be an antenna mount. Now the nice thing about this awning is the fact that she is all made in Australia. Got the wonderful little Aussie flag there, but it's also integrated with the rest of my build. So if you pop this guy open, This allows me to slip up my ladder and into the penthouse.
And on top of the tent, we've even mounted our 180 watt Red Arc solar panel to keep punching power into those lithium batteries, whether we're cruising or parked up. Arkaroola is internationally accredited as a dark sky sanctuary, one of the top 2 places in the world. This is due to the lack of light and particulate air pollution, which is a fancy way of saying the skies are very, very dark and very, very clear. And that's one of the reasons why there are 7 telescopes on the property. This is not my first time here, and it certainly won't be the last. I had a chat with owner Doug Sprigg to find out what makes Arkaroola so special.
So Doug, there's more than one telescope around here at Arkaroola. Why is this such a hot spot for spotting astro?
We've got exceedingly dark skies and also good sky clarity, and being 100 kilometres or more from the nearest small town, that helps, without street lighting. And there's now 7 observatories here. This is our one robotic one, but there's another 3 observatories up on that hill, and just out this way there's another 2, and then there's our original one, which is started in 1986 up on the hill behind the building here.
Right. And so a whole lot of people want to converge on Arkaroola just for that beautiful clarity that you can just see a lot more than elsewhere.
Yeah, well, the darker the sky, I mean, we see things with our eyes in black and white at low light levels, so it's a great equaliser where females get to see things as we do in black and white, but it's contrast ratio that's all important. So if you've got a brighter sky because of light pollution, then you don't see anywhere near as much. These telescopes are doing astro imaging in full colour.
And you can view it all on the big screens. This opened up a whole new world to me, and I have to say I am fascinated. Looking at the galaxies, hydrogen clouds and nebulas is something else indeed. I think the look on my face says it all. Arkaroola is also a wilderness sanctuary, and there are signs of that everywhere. No more so than the healthy colony of yellow-footed rock wallabies that come in every night for some supper. Our next stop is about 200 k's south of Arkaroola, and it's possibly one of the best known spots in the Flinders Ranges.
Well, get a load of that, boys. One of the most photographed areas in all of South Australia.
Yeah, amazing. I can see why they come here. Oh my God.
This is dead set one of my absolute favourites. It's spectacular but nostalgic as well. I love coming here.
Isn't it funny how you can drive so many dirt roads, but this particular view, there's something about it. It's perfectly framed, and the road really leads you into the background. You simply need to point here and shoot. I mean, we've seen more busted camera equipment here than we've seen anywhere else. Lens caps and drone bits and pieces. It's understandable though, isn't it?
Kind of just need to take it in a bit, don't you?
Yeah.
But it was getting late in the day, and so we decided to make camp. Pulling in now to the Ackerman campground, and let me have a look at the map. So we are very close to Bunyaroo Gorge, and look, you do have to book this campsite online. Very handy when there's absolutely no phone range. So we're just going to pull in here like true Australians and claim this as our own.
Well, it's pizza time tonight, guys, and for the first time ever, I'm actually taking a pizza oven, 240 volt pizza oven, out into the bush. Never done it before. I have cooked the odd pizza in a camp oven before, but it's pretty interesting actually, because at the moment it is a total fire ban here in the Flinders Ranges, so we couldn't really kick over the campfire anyway. So I've got a little bit of pizza dough, and I do need to defrost that. She's a little bit frozen at the moment from the angle. So I think that will take me probably 1 or 2 of these things to defrost, and then we'll be right to cook. It's a terrible thing waiting. Okay, let's see. It is the moment of truth. Let's platter up. Wow. This Ford build just keeps on giving. Look at this. Beautiful margherita pizza, Italian style. I think it needs a little bit of basil on top just to finish her off. There you go, boys. Margherita pizza cooked in the oven in the scrub. Hook in.
Well, this is the first for me.
Thank you, mate.
All right.
I'll see if you die now. You go first.
Looks, tastes and smells like the real deal, mate. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's all I can say.
Mate, I think you're going to need to make another one of these.
Okay,
That
done.
one's not going to last.
The Flinders Ranges are broken up by large flat expanses, and it was through this country that we journeyed on our way to Bendelby Ranges.
You'll often hear me talking about lowering tyre pressures in your four-wheel drive for all the reasons I've mentioned before. Giving yourself a better ride in your four-wheel drive, improving the longevity of your tyres, and also improving the traction on the road itself. But one of the big reasons for doing it as well, especially when there's more and more four-wheel drivers hitting the tracks these days, is the fact that it really does help your four-wheel drive tread more lightly on the track. It preserves that track because when you spread the weight of your four-wheel drive over a larger area, the effect that it has on the track itself is absolutely minimal. So instead of, for example, on a hardcore four-wheel drive track, you're tearing the track up by really having a difficult time finding traction. When you spread the vehicle weight over a much larger area, you will get traction far easier and you will preserve that track for years and years to come. You'll essentially have very, very little impact whatsoever on the track. And that goes for high-speed tracks as well. When tyres are pumped up too much, the vehicle tends to skip around on the track, and that also helps create corrugations on the track. So there's so many reasons for lowering your tyre pressures. Certainly the ride in your four-wheel drive is so much nicer, but always consider treading lightly on the track itself. It's better for everyone in the long run.
Our next stop is the Bendelby Ranges, an award-winning 37,000-acre property in the southern Flinders. It's a working sheep station that offers adventure and ecotourism, as well as some awesome four-wheel driving. It's owned and operated by good mates of mine, Charlie and Kylie Luckcraft. They offer a range of campsites from powered to completely remote. And best of all, hot showers are available in these innovative converted tanks. How good. But of course, I came here to drive their tracks and I cannot wait.
Now when you get to Bendelby Station, you will be presented with a lovely map, actually a couple of pages worth of maps and a whole lot of information as well, including different gradings of all their different tracks. So you've got everything from easy to medium to difficult. And this is a really fantastic way for a beginner to get into things because
You can start your weekend or your week on the easy stuff. They've even got a test track down near the homestead, which is fantastic, just to put yourself through the paces, feel a little bit comfortable, and then you could gradually challenge yourself if you feel the need. So it's a wonderful place just to dip the toe in and find out, do I like this? And I can tell you, you're gonna love it, because the drives here, not only are they a little bit challenging, they are visually spectacular. So you're just getting the best of both worlds. And it's always nice having that mantle of safety to know that, you know, if you've got a CB radio, you can call back to headquarters and say, hey guys, can you give me a hand? Something's happened. So just a wonderful experience, and you can really understand very quickly as soon as you come here why these guys are winning so many awards.
Patsky, you've been here before, but I am a first timer. Do you want to give me the lowdown?
Well, Josh, this is actually one of the most awarded places in South Australia. They've won the South Australian Adventure Tourism Awards for the last 3 years running, and they've even won a couple of National Tourism Awards. So it's a pretty special place, and quite unusual that a place that it has loads of four-wheel drive tracks on it would win those kind of awards. But when you come here, you can quickly see why. Charlie and Kylie and their whole team run a fantastic ship here, and they really do have a bit of everything. So you've got really easy four-wheel drive tracks for standard vehicles, you've got test tracks, you've just got plain camping, they've even got accommodation here, and they also host a bunch of variety bashes and that sort of thing. So they are a lovely family and run a really good show. On top of that, they've got some pretty serious four-wheel drive tracks as well. So if you do want to challenge yourself and your skills, mate, some of the tracks that they've got are really special. And unlike the Flinders Ranges, where you have tracks that often run in the valleys, these guys, their tracks actually run along the ridge tops often, and makes for some incredible views.
Hey Pat, I noticed that there's a track called Pat's Peak. Is there a story behind that one?
There may be, Graham. I'm actually the first fella to drive that track, and yeah, they actually allowed me to name the track. So I was a little bit selfish. I named it after myself, Pat's Peak. But I can tell you, I feel very privileged, because it is a cracking good track. Quite unlike me.
Oh, that's tremendous. So I'll be certainly looking forward to that one.
Mate, it should be fun.
I perhaps naively, before I met you, Patsky, thought that these sorts of private places that you come would give you no sense of the outback, and yet here we are, and I feel like we are smack bang in the middle of nowhere.
Mate, that's a really good point. Yeah, you do get all of that stuff. You get the beautiful, bright, starry skies, but you also get it with a bit of a helping hand as well, where, you know, you've actually got a little shop you can go to, you know, if you run out of drinks or milk or anything like that. And you know, these guys even provide you with firewood for your campsite, for goodness sake, so you don't even have to go chopping down wood. So mate, yeah, the nice thing is about these places is it's beautiful people opening up their properties for us to explore, and we're helping them along in the process. The way that this place actually kicked off as a tourism operation was because you know, the sheep and the wool prices were pretty average, so they needed to find another source of income, so they opened it up, and it's grown and grown thanks to their wonderful efforts, and it's actually become a bigger part of their income than the sheep and wool.
I'm so glad to hear it as well. From 5 seconds of meeting them, you can tell that they are the kind of family that absolutely bloody deserve it as well. Deserve that success, and I think I'm right in saying that all four-wheel drivers are thankful that people open up private places like this for us to explore.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I speak to a lot of people about Bendelby, and I tend to spruik it for free, and I can't say that I've ever really encountered someone that had an unhappy experience here. Everyone just absolutely loves it.
Certainly can see why people would like it, and it's huge. It's a huge place, but you know, in terms of getting the tourism side of the things working, there's no reward without effort, mate. They've got to put in a lot of effort to get this to this level.
Oh, for sure. And you see that all the time. You see that in their social media, in their signage around the place, in their maintenance of tracks. You know, they've got dozers out on tracks, cleaning them up, you know, and that costs obviously a whole lot of money. So it's so nice to see them being rewarded for their efforts, as you say.
After a spectacular drive along the plains of this big sky country, we spied the Hungry Ranges, the site of our next challenge.
Well, fellas, I think the time has come. We've been four-wheel driving for quite a few days now. I think I've prepared you well enough for Pat's Peak.
I'm concerned mainly for your vehicle, not the one you're driving, the one I'm driving.
Actually, I don't think bogging is such an issue on this track, but possibly rolling down the hill sideways might be.
Oh, good. Well, as long as we're not getting bogged, who cares, right?
Okay, that's got me piqued my interest now.
There's a whole lot of flat plains that we've just driven through, but yeah, they do have some particularly steep and gnarly inclines and declines. The nice thing about this track, Pat's Peak, is that it's reasonably easy-ish to climb up, but it's coming down. That's when it gets a bit sketchy. So you've got to be really on your guard, and it's the sort of track where you don't want to freak out. You just want to kind of gently guide your vehicle and control it to the bottom. And it is one of those tracks that I actually don't think it could really be successfully driven back the other way. It's very much a one-way downhill roller coaster.
Let's see how it is. That does sound a bit challenging.
My apologies if your insurance premium goes up after this little track, mate.
Mate, I'm sure we'll be fine. We have two competent four-wheel drivers at the helm, and Josh. Just kidding.
I was gonna swear, but I can't swear. This is steep already, and we've just entered it. Oh gosh.
Straight away we are into it. It is a rough and rocky ride. Pat's Peak, but very, very enjoyable. Puts a big smile on your face. We're looking at a rocky track that does have a fair bit of traction. So the F-150 is loving it right now.
I'm very cognizant of the fact that last time we attempted a track like this, I was in this here very vehicle, the next gen Ford Everest, and what happened was catastrophe. I put a massive hole in the fuel tank and I went nowhere, sat by myself on the side of a hill while the boys went and had fun. I'm really hoping nothing like that happens today. This is getting back on the horse.
So boys, how do you like my track so far?
This is a climb and a half, I tell you, and getting worse or better.
I don't know what I was expecting, but this is definitely delivering.
It is so fun. I've just got this giant grin on my face because, yeah, it's fun, it's steep. Check out the view to your left-hand side. Incredible. Oh man, I'm so happy at the moment.
Oh mate, I'm so glad to hear it. I was actually meaning to ask though, how are the nerves? Dream truck, steep track.
Well, yeah, and you've sort of got to pick some lines up here, as you'll notice. There's a few different ways of doing it, but and the rocks around here have this really sharp, sharp edge to them. So, have done some carnage on this track in the past with some differentials. So, be gentle.
Roger that. Well, that view is spectacular, and these cars are loving it. So am I.
Holy cow! This is a challenge.
I gotta say, this is one of the most fun tracks that I have driven all season, and we've done some crackers. And I'm not just saying that because it's got my name on it. I'm saying that because this is just a ripping track.
I am just in awe. You look out the window and it feels like I'm the pilot of an aeroplane or something, because I can't see any track. It's just all sky.
Oh, that's it, man. So fun.
Yeah, I haven't even put a hole in the fuel tank yet.
That's a first.
I'm carrying heaps of soap, it's alright. We'll plug it.
Well, I think we're up. Oh my goodness. That's a cracker.
Ah, isn't it just so fun? It's proper exhilarating, isn't it, fellas?
Mate, exhilarating is the word. I think Eminem wrote a song about this. Knees weak, palms are sweaty.
He did. Oh, let's get out and soak it up, eh? Fellas, what do you reckon? Not a bad view up the top?
Oh my God, mate, it is cracker. But seriously, I felt like we were in a plane taking off, because you got that vertical and then it's, no more words.
What about you, mate?
Oh, it was staggering, mate. That just came out of nowhere, coming off that plane and then just gradually moving into probably the steepest consistent track I've ever driven.
Really? Steepest? Wow.
Well, consistent, yeah. I was looking at the sky nearly most of the time.
Fantastic. But the view when you're coming up is just nuts, isn't it? I mean, it's not often that you can actually find, especially on the east coast of Australia, you know, tracks that are kind of bare off the side that just open up the whole scenery for you. So, oh man, I love it. It is, for me, it's very surreal driving, you know, my dream truck up a track with, strangely, my name. It's a funny thing. I thought you had to be dead for someone to name something after you, but that's pretty cool.
I can see why you're so happy about it.
We've come up to a peak, guys. What goes up must come down.
I've been thinking about that. I can't even see where it goes.
Believe me, you know, if the heart was racing coming up, it's going to be racing maybe even more going down.
All right. Well, let's do it.
Okay, rightio.
Okay, thank you, mate.
I think deep down, little boys never grow up, and I think as an adult, if you can tap in to the childhood spirit in yourself, you will probably find some great joy. I know that I have, and nowhere more than right now I can really feel that. This is the car that I played with as a matchbox car when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and what do you know, as an adult, when I'm driving these fun, challenging, articulating four-wheel drive tracks, I find myself with some of the most plain, clear joy that I have had in weeks, months, years. And it seems silly and it seems childish that I would get so much joy out of this, but I do. So if you are anything like me, whether it's riding a motorbike, driving a four-wheel drive, jumping on a horse, whatever it is that gives you that joy, tap into it, folks. Life's short.
This track just has me ecstatic. It's the feeling that got me hooked on four-wheel driving in the first place, and I found it again on, believe it or not, Pat's Peak. This track absolutely delivers.
If I can offer you any tips on this track, it is all about wheel placement and tyre pressures, because you will be scrabbling for traction at times, and if you don't get your tyres in the right place, you could really stake them. And likewise, you could also really damage the underbody of your four-wheel drive. One of the guys that I travelled on this particular track with previously actually staked the differential, the diff pumpkin of the vehicle. So very easy to do some damage, but if you take it easy, nice and slow and measured, you'll be absolutely fine and you'll have a rollicking little roller coaster of a time. Okay, now for the really challenging part of this track, and like so many of the tracks around here at Bendelby, you'll notice my head going up all the time, and that's because I'm just peering over the bonnet, because it's a single lane kind of a goat track, and it is quite difficult to work out where you're going a lot of the time. So you're always sort of scrambling for a better view of the track. And I'm coming down to a nice little hairpin here, and for a vehicle of my length, this is interesting indeed. Very challenging. but we'll see if we can sneak around the corner. There goes the sensors. But I think I'm gonna make it around. Wow. Oh, just slipping, sliding up onto a rock. Oh, beautiful. So we haven't hit terra firma yet, in my underbelly anyway. But the big rig's doing fine. Obviously I'm in low range first gear. I've popped her into manual mode so that I'm stuck in first gear. And first part of the hill's going fine. The next part, well, she is, whoa, she's a bit sketchy. Stick my head out. Okay, we have a line. Whether it's the right line or not, who knows? My goodness. This is steep and scrabbly. So the rocks are moving under the tyres, I can feel them, but the Coopers are grabbing pretty well, so that's okay. I haven't hit yet. Very nice, very nice. Bit of a bounce. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay. Goodness, what line to take? Wow. Wow, okay. It's getting sketchier by the second, this track. I think I have a line. Oh man, this is funny. This is sketchy, sketchy, sketchy. Okay, I'm gonna change my line and go down this way. See how I go. Amazingly, I haven't actually really hit anything under the car yet. This is the joys of running 35-inch tyres. I've just been told my adaptive cruise is not available. Funny that. Oh wow. I have to say that that was a really, really challenging decline. Very steep, but the F-150 just ate it and spat it out. It said, give me a bigger challenge. I need it. That's nothing for me. God bless you, little Effie. Big Effie.
Graham, who's a seasoned professional, scooted down behind me in the Ranger. Josh, however, was feeling a little more trepidatious, bringing the shorter wheel-based Everest down.
Folks, I don't know what has happened. I just watched the boys drive that track and I just had a mass of self-doubt wash over me. I don't want to damage Pat's vehicle. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to delay a shoot. I want to get this show out to you guys. This is scary stuff. I've got to tell myself that I've done it before and it's going to be all right. In the end, this will be a good memory. Holy sh**. That's where the Everest wheelbase does come in handy. Everyone else did a 3-pointer there, not me. I am in hill descent control, low range, first gear. Doing my best to idle. Remembering we don't want to be riding the brakes too hard. That's just going to take away steering. Okay. Come on, Josh, you've got this. You crawl rocks for a living. Thank you, mate. I'm shaking in here. Gear on the uni then right now. Okay, I'll call it. That's genuinely the most fearful I've ever been four-wheel driving. That's just insane. The cameras will never do this justice.
How's the heart rate? How's the heart rate?
I don't know. Oh.
Well driven. Seriously, well driven.
A solid drive down from Josh, but the fun ain't over yet. We've got another scrabbly ridgeline to conquer.
Sometimes you forget the edge is there and then you remember. I don't like remembering. This is a long way down, folks. Not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. Or those with heart conditions, actually, probably.
One final hairy descent from Pat's Peak, and this one is another good one, and another one where you really want to pick the right line so that you protect your vehicle. So down I come. Under there. Oh, that's the first little love tap this car's had, I think. I guess you've got to christen it somehow, don't you? But really, I mean, it does have buckets of clearance, buckets of traction. This car does. Oh man. I'd often wondered just how capable these American rigs are on Aussie tracks, but this vehicle is really giving me bucket loads of confidence. The lateral stability, the long wheelbase just feels planted on the four-wheel drive track all the time, and it is proper confidence inspiring. I mean, this track is challenging. It's hard. They call it a 10 out of 10 track here on Bendelby, and it's because of those hills I've just driven. But the F-150, not challenged, not challenged.
I then guided Graham down, who had a few choice words of his own for this track.
Okay. It just doesn't stop.
This one is the last hurdle to tackle, and if anything, in my mind, it looks twice as bad as the one that had me shaking in my boots before. So let's see how we go. Clearance for that line. That's the fuel tank. That's everything flying. Steer into that. Drop that wheel back down. Okay, looking alright. It's looking alright. That part where your brain says you've got to let go of the brake and you just don't want to. Oh, it's gonna be gross. Oh, Patski's track just keeps giving.
Well driven, guys. How lucky am I to have such a brilliant track bear my name and to be able to drive it in my dream truck. the F-150 is the absolute cherry on top. Our next destination at Bendelby is a lovely little scenic drive to give the nerves a rest on the way to a stunning campsite.
It's a beautiful contrast, this area, isn't it, guys? Like, I love the colours of the cypress pines, and then it just drops down to the valleys and the plains, and you've got those gorgeous reds, and it's just gorgeous.
Too right, mate. Absolutely my favourite colours of the outback. The cypress pines, though, are they native?
Yeah, Josh, actually they are a native. They're an ancient native. They go right back to the Gondwana period. This subspecies down here is typically the southern cypress.
That makes sense, mate, because I know they were using them for building materials a lot. I mean, this is what you'd find in the old slab huts that the early settlers used to use, and they also use them for floorboards. Graham, I think you use them in your billy balling competitions, don't you?
It is the preferred species for our billy balling because they have a particular oil in them that makes them burn very well, which is probably not real good for bushfire season, but it's great for our billy balling.
Good stuff, and the termites don't like them, so not a bad building material. There's a few nice little declines and inclines here at Bendelby, and the low range in this F-150 is really quite respectable. Didn't really know what to expect with this vehicle because I'm so used to driving the Rangers and the Everest sized vehicles, but this guy, it actually is far more nimble than what you might think, and I think part of the reason for that is because it is a reasonably light vehicle. Even though it looks massive, Ford have really focused on the weight and keeping it down. So it's fully aluminium panels, and the less weight in a four-wheel drive, really, the more nimble it is, because weight is obviously a challenge for every other component on the vehicle. The suspension, the tyres, the engine. So if you can keep the weight down, you are laughing. Obviously I've added a fair bit to it, but I haven't completely killed its handling characteristics by any means. I've really tried to focus on the details in this vehicle of the accessories. So I'm going to show you 4 of these details that I think I've got right. Firstly, the seat covers. These are Aussie made by Black Duck, and they beautifully have embroidered them with a rapid red colour here to match the paint job of the Ford, and they've also popped in my logo, and I reckon they look mint. They're made with the 4 Elements fabric here, which is fully waterproof but also nice and soft to touch, so it's great when you're wearing shorts, when you jump out of a water hole and jump back in here, you know you're not damaging the upholstery below. Next up we have the Uniden X-Track 80 model. Now this is a cracker, this one. One of my favourite features with this is the replay button. It allows you to replay that last transmission, which is so handy when you're bopping out to the tunes behind the wheel really loud and you can't hear the CB. You then turn your stereo down, hit the replay button without having to tell someone else to please repeat their message. The other cool thing about the X-Tracks is that they also have a tracking function which communicates with their handheld UHF. A really cool feature, especially if you've got kids that are wanting to roam around the bush a little bit but you still want to know exactly where they are. Such a cool feature. Outside the vehicle, I have my clear view mirrors. Remember that the F-150 has a towing capacity of 4.5 tonne. That's a good tonne more than most dual cab utes on the market. So I got Clearview to whip me up some mirrors, and these ones are actually a prototype. They are going to actually offer them very, very soon through Ford Australia, but they're just doing their final checks and I'm helping them do a little bit of outback testing to make sure they are Mickey Mouse. And as you'd expect, they've got all the integrated Ford technology bolted straight into these Clearview mirrors. But what you're looking at is a far bigger mirror with 2 different lenses. So the top mirror is the main mirror that I'm going to look at when I'm on the road, because that is the largest mirror. But the small one, it is fantastic for those close proximity areas, like when you're wanting to look back at your back wheels. But obviously these are towing mirrors, so the big party trick with them is you whip them out and you get fantastic rearward vision. And the final detail that I have mounted out front is the Nighthawk VCT driving lights. Now these are an LED light, but the beauty of them is that they are fully adjustable. You can adjust the intensity over 7 settings, but you can also adjust the color temperature. So you can have yellowy light if you're going through snowy areas or driving in a little bit of dust, or you can swing that right around to being a blue light or anything in between. Basically, the power is with you, the driver. You can choose what you like. And the intensity changes are actually really quite handy as well, because despite them being a really, really bright light, sometimes, particularly when you've got reflective road signs, you don't want that entire intensity because it just comes back and smacks you right in the retina. So if you can just dial them down a little bit, it is really handy. So one of my favorites.
Now, the Nighthawks have been mounted to a temporary bull bar as the ARB finished product wasn't quite out of the oven. But we got a sneak peek of what the ARB bar looks like. Pretty schmick. With all the mods I've made, they definitely add up. Just how much? Let's find out.
Now, obviously a rig like this doesn't come for free, and you're probably wondering just how much does Pat's dream rig actually cost? Well, the base cost for this vehicle around about $151,000, and on top of that I have calculated a total of around about another $100,000 worth of accessories. So now we're dealing with a $250,000 rig. It's expensive, absolutely, but it is my dream rig, and this is something that has taken me years and years to actually achieve. So I'm pumped about that, but I also want to protect this rig, because if something terrible happens and I happen to write the vehicle off, I want to make sure that I have it really properly insured. So you don't just want to insure the base vehicle, you want to insure all of the accessories that are bolted to that vehicle. And that's what I've done with Club 4x4 Insurance. So those guys, you send them some photos when you've got a really comprehensively kitted out rig like this, you have a chat to them, and we're looking at a combined agreed value for this vehicle of $250,000. So essentially that not only covers the accessories, it also covers the labor involved to build the vehicle as well, because that's one thing that people often forget when they're tallying up the total of their vehicle. I mean, just the electrical installation alone on this vehicle, around about $15,000 in labor, not even including the bits that are actually in there. So keep that in mind when you are insuring your vehicle. Now, there's the insurance for your vehicle and its accessories, but there's also insurance for the contents of your vehicle. So what do I mean by contents? Well, that's basically those bits of your 4x4 that are an integral part of what you take on the trip, but they're not necessarily properly bolted down. So they might be strapped down, like my coffee machine, like the benchy, or like my Engel fridge there. Still really significant parts of your touring kit, and you want to make sure that they are covered as well. And you can do that with Club 4x4 Insurance. Now, the other handy thing about having a dedicated four-wheel drive insurance company is they also cover recovery cover. Now, that means that if you need a professional recovery to get yourself out of trouble, they will help you fund that with $1,500 into each 4x4 policy. But on top of that, you can bump it up. So if you're going to a remote area, you can actually increase that to $15,000 or $30,000 worth of coverage. And I can tell you that if this vehicle had a serious mechanical failure in the middle of something like the Canning stock route, it would cost every cent of that $30,000 to get you out of there. So it's just another nice piece of insurance that actually considers us as four-wheel drivers, where we go, where we take our vehicles, and getting us back home without having to dip into our life savings. So whether you've got 100 grand's worth of accessories on your 4x4 or only a couple of grand's worth, it's really nice to know that you're properly insured, whether you're going on-road or off-road. I'm now taking the team up to a beautiful spot known as Sunset Ridge. Now, this is not a challenging four-wheel drive track by any means. It is a lovely dirt road, but when you get up the top, you appreciate why it is named Sunset Ridge. It's pretty gorgeous.
We're coming to the end of our adventure at Bendelby, but I can't think of a better place to watch the sun go down. With the light fading, I've got just enough time to take you for a tour of arguably the most important addition to Project First Responder.
I've been dying to show you the piece de resistance of this vehicle, Project First Responder, and how it actually got its name. You see, when you're in the bush, obviously you need to stay hydrated. So up the front, we have an 80-litre water tank, and that sorts us out in terms of, you know, the essentials. But behind this little door here, we have so much more enjoyable things to look at. We have fitted our Engel fridge freezer in here. She's on a slide, fantastic. And we've color coded it to sort of suit the outside of the vehicle as well. But over here, we have one of my favorite bits. So this is the Benchy system from Kegland. And this little guy can chill 3 litres of whatever you like per hour. Now, what I like is beer, and what the better half likes is gin and tonic. So in the back of this vehicle, in the storage box here, we have mounted a 50-litre commercial beer keg, and that is rather glorious. And next to it, we've got a little 10-litre keg where we store gin and tonic. But you could put mineral water, you could put your favourite cocktail, whatever you like. You've got 2 taps to play with. And this system actually runs off either 240 volts or 12 volts. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to keep that beer or alcohol chilled. It chills coming through this system. Now, it starts off as a bit of a ridiculous idea, this sort of a setup, and massive overkill. But when you actually use it, you start to go, it's really, really cool, because you don't actually accrue anywhere near the rubbish that you would if you were carrying this sort of beer along. Think of the glass or the cans. We're talking about the storage of, just with the 50-litre beer keg, around about 6.5 cases. Imagine the rubbish created from 6.5 cases when it comes to cans and cardboard and all that sort of stuff. Where do you put it? Well, you've got to take it away, and you've got to take it back home basically most of the time. Whereas this setup, it is essentially rubbish free. We're using glassware here, and it is fantastic. So I am really, really happy with this. And the other benefit is you can actually put some really nice craft beer in there. We're using Mountain Culture. These guys won Beer of the Year for the last 2 years running. So it is a fine drop that we are partaking in. And come around here and I'll show you a little bit more about this setup. So ORS designed this wonderful setup. So we've got our table here, and we also have our glassware in here. So the glasses just sit snug in there. They don't go anywhere because they can't. They're beautifully padded in there. But you will notice there's a few coffee cups. Well, that is for our little Smeg coffee machine. And that machine even grinds your beans, so you've got beautifully fresh coffee every morning. And it is a proper game changer, folks, when you're out in the bush. Again, this was done as a bit of a party trick, I suppose, and to try and create something that I hadn't seen created before. But in doing that, we've actually stumbled across a really cool way of camping. Now, this whole ORS box is actually mounted on top of a bed slide that allows us just to drag everything out. And while doing that, this gives us the ability to put a table here and also a table on the other side. And not to mention, if we want even more tableware, we have another bench that whips out here with a nice little void there, just in case we get any drippy beer taps there. Now, this setup too, it only takes about 15 minutes to chill your beer down. So I can simply flick on the inverter from inside the vehicle, because I've got another Red Vision screen in there. That turns this on, and when I pull up to camp, I simply need to hook up my beer keg and I'm pouring beers immediately. How good is that? Now, while I came up with some ideas for this whole setup, I certainly didn't build it. There's no chance I could, I'm not that talented, but I did get a mate to help me out. And his name is Graham Jones, and he's from ORS, and I'm gonna drag him in here now. Graham, I think you deserve one of these, mate.
I know, I have to say. I've been waiting for this one.
So tell me, mate, Have you ever built anything quite like this?
No, no, and to be honest, when you first brought the proposal in and talked about how much you actually wanted to put in here and what you wanted to make work, I didn't think that was even possible. I thought it was crazy actually, but you know, once we got into it and played around with it a bit, we realised that it could actually work, and you know, the end result is great.
It's amazing how practical it is, isn't it? Like on the road, and you've camped with it now, and that ability to pull up and pull a beer when you've...
It has been just excellent, really. It's really been worth it, I think. You know, it's been a job, making sure everything worked and getting everything to fit, but end result, perfect.
Were there some moments where you wanted to kick me out the door, mate? Or...
Yeah.
That was too fast. You answered that way too quick.
It was.
We had some challenges though, didn't we? But I guess that's with, you know, with doing something so new. We're not copying anyone, and it was kind of, yeah, ridiculous. How do you fit a 50-litre keg in? How do you fit one of these things plus a fridge, plus a coffee machine, plus tables? Not to mention the water tank.
And look, all of that's true, and we know that it's out there. We know that, but that's what we were creating. That's what you had in mind. You knew it was out there. Yeah, there's been a bit of trial and error, but together we've got it together and come up with it.
To watch your team come together, listen to my stupid ideas, and then make them happen. Not just make them happen, you know, improve on them. That's fantastic.
And the end result, I mean, I'm stoked with the end result.
Yeah, no, not nearly as much as me, mate. Thank you so much, Graham. Cheers, mate.
You bet.
Well, fellas, we're living a bit fancy, aren't we? We've got our draft beer, we've got a killer sunset behind us from Sunset Ridge. What do you reckon about Bendelby, hey?
Absolute cracker. This place is red hot for wheeling, I reckon, and then the views.
Yeah, it's just been absolutely mind-blowing. It's got such good tracks, tracks that just come out of nowhere, and it's not what I expected at all. And the place is huge and so well set out for campers and four-wheel drives, anything you want to do, it's got it here.
It's really, you can tell the place has been run by four-wheel drivers, you know. You're not camping on top of anyone else, you know. No. You've got easy tracks and you've got really challenging tracks like we did today. Yeah, and it does have that remoteness, like you mentioned while we were driving today, mate, where you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere on a remote trip, but you're actually on someone else's property.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're past that reception area, it's just no one else exists, only you and your four-wheel drive. Best place on earth, I reckon.
And the colour, that salmon pink behind us, how good is that? I think the only thing better is having a cold bevy and a bit of cheese and nibbles, hey? Here you go, boys.
Thank you.
And let's enjoy the last rays of that sunset, eh?
Oh, mate.
That's got to be the perfect way to end an adventure. Great mates, a fine ale, and a gorgeous sunset. There are so many incredible campsites here, and the stars are just so bright, you feel like you could reach up and pluck them out of the sky.
Well, this really has been a dream adventure for me in my dream 4x4. Thank you for indulging me in my little adventure, and I hope that one day you too can have the same feeling that I have driving your dream vehicle and having a dream of an adventure. I'd also really like to thank those people that helped me put this vehicle together, the engineers and the tradesmen and women that made my dream a reality. I'm Pat Callinan, and until next time, keep the shiny side up.